Hello, welcome to the 10th day of September 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a daily live video exercise that I do from my balcony or wherever I can find a good place to do it, should the days become short enough that there's no more light here, which is going to happen soon enough. I do this to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours, how I did with the more interesting challenges and opportunities that I met. I reflect on my values, my creed. I go over the creed and one of the 8 objectives and one of the principles, and then I prepare for the coming day. But before I do any of that, I always like to say thank you to my supporters, those who support me on Patreon and on eBay, on YouTube membership, and also those who watch my videos. I really appreciate your help. You help fuel, literally, financially, the endeavors that I do outside of the pale of my small little room in my little balcony here, my little safe base camp. Excuse me while I take extra sips of my coffee. I don't want to share the slurping sounds with you, but I'm exhausted. I had a very full day, almost like a full day of work yesterday, and as a result, I'm kind of exhausted this morning. I think I'll get back on my feet though. Quick check of the weather. It's precisely at 5:30 a.m. here in Japan, 25 degrees Celsius and 84% humidity. So we're just pushing the temperature out of the green zone, headed into red, and the humidity is well into the red. Today should be a little less challenging than yesterday, 25 and 84. 84%. Yesterday was a very hot day. It wasn't as hot as the day prior, but it was still hot enough. And you know, I'm going through this summer without air conditioning. I literally just have my little electric fan, which little Rudy's in. Check this out. This is kind of cute. Little Rudy is sitting there in front of the fan right now. There he is. And see, he sits by my side. He's with me all the time, and unless I'm out and about with my wife, and then he's here with Ollie. All right, back to it. So I do this exercise, like I said, for various purposes. I do talk about subjects that may make some people uncomfortable, like death, so just be forewarned. I do have latitude to talk about anything I want, as this is my journal video. You're welcome to leave comments or criticisms, and I'll read them when I finish with the main part. Let's get on with the show, so to speak. So as for the last 24 hours, I have 2 notes here. One is that there were no challenges, and then a parenthetical comment saying, for a while now. And, you know, it's starting to make me wonder. You know, usually when I was in the heat of life, I would have the more challenging days of life. I would have, 1 or 2, sometimes 3 incidents that I could relate to say, well, this happened, and then this happened, and the other thing happened, and I either did well or I did poorly, and then I can go over it and try to tune and improve. That was the real meat of this video exercise. I haven't had any of that, and as I said in my parenthetical comment here, for a while now. What does that mean? Does it mean that I've improved my my operating system and my engagement with the world, such that challenges aren't happening anymore? I don't think it's that, although there is a lot of that. Definitely over the last, 8 years I've been doing this, 7, 8 years I've been doing this. I know that I've improved a great deal my interaction and my ability to engage with the world, but that isn't it. I think what's it is that I've decreased the scope of my living, and I'm simply not putting myself in as many or as often into situations where I encounter hard stuff anymore. Now, is that a bad thing? Maybe it is if you're a person like me who enjoys improving, and maybe like a prize fighter who enjoys a good partner to box with, right? someone who will leave me with a bloody nose and a cut lip, but I had a good experience and I learned something from it. I guess if I was a prize fighter, a boxer, that's the kind of fighter that I'd want to be. I wouldn't want easy partners. I wouldn't want easy matches. I'd want tough competitors, people who hurt me and press me to improve. I guess that's how I want to live my life too. Still, even at 61, I still would rather live like that because I know that not living in that type of engaged, challenging life has consequences as well, right? You lose, like, come back. That'll take me back from the edge. There's another element there, right? Being constantly engaged in hard stuff in life, it keeps my tools sharp and ready to go. I used to describe having my objectives and principles hanging like tools off a utility belt, whipping out apathy here, taking out a little, your life will not go well here, hashtag apathy, hashtag life will not go well, and always whipping out reason, hashtag reason, at every opportunity. It doesn't mean I have to make a decision right now about what to do about this, but I'm noting it. Maybe I need to mix up my life a little more. One thought I had was that I have made a friend. I don't really have friends. You've probably heard me say that before, so I won't go into depth. But there's one fella who lives up the street here, and he's just a year older than me. He's a Japanese man. He speaks English really well. He lived overseas for a long time. And he and I do the radio exercise group together. And he kind of reached out an olive branch of friendship. And I've been over to his house twice. And I can't really invite anybody here because of the dogs, but I'm thinking about inviting him out for coffee or a beer or something like that. And maybe that's a good way. And I'm not trying to say that I'm trying to utilize people as a means to add good stuff, fodder to my list, but that's part of what comes with it, right? If I extend myself and put myself out there, then I have that opportunity. Another thing I've been thinking about doing is picking one night a week and going out to izakaya just on my own. Go out and pick a bar and go inside and have a beer, talk to the locals, do some things, maybe take the train downtown and do it. I've talked about that. I talked about that long before I even came to Japan. I talked about it with Yumiko. I said, I'm gonna, like Cheers, like have a place where everybody knows your name, right? But maybe mix it up until I find such a place. That's another idea that I had. Ideas. The other note that I have here, and this explains my malaise and fatigue, but not ennui, is the note says first I wrote a hard day of work, and then I scratched out the word hard and substituted it with the word good. A good day of work yesterday. So here's what I did. Since deciding that YouTube is my thing, I decided that I'd try an experiment. I'd take one of my Retiring in Japan uploads, because I upload one every day. They're 30, 40, 60-minute long videos, sometimes more. And then to promote the video, I'd take snippets out of the video, like commercials and teasers, and then share those teasers on social media with a link back to the main video. And I tried that yesterday for the first time, and it worked great. I figured the formula out. I had a long talk with ChatGPT about my idea. It gave me some great advice. I implemented a plan. I set up a workflow and spent the whole day doing just that. And I overdid it, but that's not a surprise. I always do that. Whenever I have a new workflow or a new toy or something like that, I always wear it out on the first try, and I did. I'm utterly exhausted right now as a result of yesterday's hard day of work. Scratch, good day of work. So forgive me while I take another sip of my coffee. All right, let's go over the creed. 8 objectives are as follows. I'm just going to recite them. To be always ready to die, to make good and effective use of time, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions, to recognize my true limits and true opportunities, to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully, and to maintain my balance. The principle that I'm going to read this morning is called Agency and the Great Indifference. Let's find it. And it's immediately after the principle of distraction. This is principle number 20 on page 265 of the hardbound edition of Going Alone. Agency and the Great Indifference opens with a quote from Charles Dickens. I looked at the stars and considered how awful it would be for a man to turn his face up to them as he froze to death and see no help or pity in all the glittering multitude. That when I first encountered that quote, I realized that Charles Dickens had captured the aspect and the apprehension of the great indifference, the underlying theme of Going Alone, the universe without God, perfectly. My writing, Agency and the Great Indifference. Every individual life is an agent, and the products of its living are its artifacts. Subtract these away, and what's left is the vast landscape of the great indifference, characterized by an incapacity to observe or maintain any thought or opinion towards well-being, an utter lack of regard towards joy or suffering, a godless backdrop of unthinking, inanimate substance and time. I can't believe I summarized in its own section the great indifference in a single short paragraph, which is the great indifference is the overarching theme of this book. Never mind that I also went into great depth of explanation, characterization, and description of the great indifference in at least 2 other chapters of the book, including the cast and the chapter titled Going Alone. But that is precisely it. Every life is an agent, and the products of our lives are the artifacts of agency. Subtract these away, and what's left is the vast landscape of the great indifference, none of which can be seen here. You really have to squint hard to see the great indifference through this fecundity and over an arcing, aching life everywhere. You have to get to a moonscape. That's why I chose the desert, the deep desert, the driest part of the North American desert, out by Siberia Ghost Town, as my landscape for apprehending the great indifference, which can indeed be seen by living things with a mind and an eye to see, and a willingness to look beyond what's comforting. Okay, and in my reading, I encounter time after time authors who cite the same observation, including, kind of to my surprise, Charles Dickens. The last part of this exercise is to go over the next 24 hours, and I said in my note here I was going to solidify the routine that I described yesterday, but I don't think I want to do that today. It's a Wednesday. Yesterday utterly wore me out. I'm exhausted. I might try, as vain as the effort might be, to relax a little bit. I'm not good at relaxing, but I might try a little bit. Sit with my guitar, sit with my dog, maybe read a book, maybe watch Netflix all day. Pfft, yeah, fancy that. Good luck at that, Kurt. Let's go ahead and read comments. Renaissance, hey Renaissance, good to see you. Good morning to you. Erica, hi Kurt. Erica says hi to myself and Renaissance. Hello, Erica. Tim is there, and he chimes in that the weather check in the UK at 9:32 p.m. is 15.2 and 57% humidity. Lovely, sunny, cool day. Very nice. Erica says hi to Tim. Tim says hi to Erica. Julie, hello Julia. Julie, that is. Good afternoon. We had a rare rain shower this morning. It's normally stays dry until November, so this was a surprise. Very nice. Renaissance says, hi, Erica. Evelyn, hi, Evelyn. Hey, everybody. Erica says hi to Evelyn and Julie. Evelyn says hello to the ladies. Julie says, I used to really enjoy solo hikes, just short trips in the local area. There's also over 55 hiking groups. There's also an over 55 hiking group we can join. Very nice. Evelyn says, my trips are always solo. Today I took a 7-hour bus ride to Ephesus. I hope I said that right. I was the only foreigner on the bus. Wow, look at that. That's amazing. Evelyn, I love that. going alone, huh, so to speak. Julie says, exactly, I've had a new experience. Julie says, it's funny, I always see the indifference of the universe as a comfort. No judgment, no judgment at all. You see it as a comfort. Interesting. I see it as a vacant emptiness. Um, I wonder how that comforts you, Julie. That's interesting to me. I wouldn't say it's a discomfort necessarily. It's not a positive force in any way. It's a vacuum emptiness. It's the same type of solace that I get from an empty cup of coffee, right? There's nothing there. Tim says, good to relax and recharge the batteries from time to time, although I become fidgety after 10 minutes. You and me both, Tim. I know I can set myself up that I'm going to relax and do stuff like that, but good luck with that. Erica says, hope everyone enjoys a fab morning, day, or night. Thank you. Well put, too, Erica. Julie says, I don't know the emptiness, just feels cozy to me. Interesting. That's really interesting that the emptiness feels cozy to you. You've given me something to think about, Julie. It's interesting because clearly you're describing the same thing that I and Charles Dickens and others are describing as well, the emptiness of the universe. I mean, I hate to say it this way because it unsettles people when I say it this way, but I'll go ahead and say it. To me, the emptiness is like looking behind the curtain of the Great Oz and realizing there is no Great Oz, right? The emptiness reveals a lack of deity, a lack of overarching oversight and control of the universe. That the universe seems to be almost a clockwork mechanism of physics and chemistry. Why it's a clockwork is a mystery, right? I mean, if there's no agency, why are there laws? I don't know. But I don't. That fact that there are laws themselves don't speak to me. Don't provide. Though that fact alone is not evidence that there is a God. I see this as an evidence of an orchestrated, beautiful, law-bound chemical unwinding from 14.8 billion years ago to today that neither comforts nor intimidates or scares me anymore. Well, it never really did in the first place. That it might comfort is an interesting idea to me. Maybe because I was not raised in a religion. Oh, neither was I. I mean, my family, all my family became religious, but after I was grown, I became a Christian around 15 or 16 years old, and I was a Christian for a short period of time until I studied the Bible, and I realized, and I had questions from the Bible that didn't make sense, and I could find, and I decided that I didn't decide that the Bible was wrong at that time. What I decided was I couldn't find good reason to believe that what the Bible was saying was true. I couldn't find good reason to sustain that belief. So I gave up the belief. I stopped being a Christian. But I continued reading the Bible. I continued to read the Bible every day. I'm very interested in the Bible. And mostly because it impacts so much of the literature that I like to read. But having read the Bible, cover to cover many times, my certitude that that is simply stories and human fables and politics has wrapped 66 books wrapped up together to govern society and help build the better city and better society is only being reinforced. I have no more. I have lost any certitude about the Christian faith being true, or even I don't even question it anymore. It's clearly not the case. I even wrote a book about it. It's called Freeway Bible Study. Freeway Bible Study is the book that I wrote documenting my efforts to define God through the study of the Bible and realizing that God wasn't there. Anyway, I've gone way off track. So to say that I wasn't raised with a religion, I gained a religion, and then I lost it, and then I've been on my own ever since. The fact that I'm on my own doesn't scare me. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe I have a soul. I truly don't believe those things. So there's no doubt or question in my mind. I don't sit there and wonder sometimes, what if I'm wrong? those days are done. I'm pretty sure that I don't know the answers, but I'm pretty sure that the answers that people think in terms of super that involve supernatural solutions are pretty much made up. There's something maybe something behind that, but nobody's been able to demonstrate anything that would reveal what it actually is yet, or that, at least not to my satisfaction. So, all that to point out that I'm very intrigued by the fact that you find the emptiness comforting. Do you find, and this is going to put it starkly, Julie, do you find the emptiness of death comforting? Because it's the same thing to me, the great indifference. The emptiness is the same nothingness that will attend our non-existence for the rest of eternity. Do you find that comforting? I only find it comforting to the extent that at least the pain of life will be over, right? Not that life is very painful for me, certainly not anymore. In fact, that's part of the reason why I stopped drinking. I never drank very much, but I stopped drinking because I'm enjoying life so much. It was like even one beer a night kind of put me off my edge the next day. I don't want to miss that chance. But I'm wondering, you've brought an interesting angle to this, Julie. Thank you for that. Tim says, perhaps emptiness feels less threatening. Less threatening. Well, I guess if you believe in deity, that could be pretty threatening, right? If you think there's a big, powerful entity out there that has some say in our ultimate well-being, or the well-being after death, that could feel threatening. Thinking that doesn't exist and it's nothing but sand in the end. That's less threatening for sure. Good point. Nice point, Tim. Thank you. Julie says, maybe because I was not raised in a religion. Yeah. But Robert says, hello to everybody. Erica says hi to Robert. Crystal, hey Crystal, good to see you. It's been a while. Caught the end and just wanted to say hi. I'm glad you did, Crystal. I really appreciate you dropping by. Tim says, hi Robert. Renaissance says hi to Robert. Robert says, notes his weather in Napanee, Ontario, Canada at 22°C and 47% humidity with humidity, not 47% humidity. That's an interesting metric. Air quality index of 21. About the same as yesterday, huh, Robert? Renaissance says, at Kurt, have you had a chance or any interest in simulation theory? Yes, I'm very interested in simulation theory. In fact, I've pretty much been kind of won over by it. I think if it's possible, then we probably are in a simulation. I'm probably just as as won over by simulation theory as I am by my conviction. I'm pretty. I would almost say that I'm almost a 100% certitude that the idea of a soul is false, and I'm just about 100% sure that whatever this is, it's probably a simulation. Just as I'm also just about 100% sure that free will doesn't exist. So those are three things. Yeah, those are big, and I didn't arrive at any of those lightly, right? It's just simulation theory. Just the more you dig into it, you're like, geez, this is the kind of evidence, or at least this is the kind of stuff that, like, anybody, if I abided a religion, I would wish that my religion could stand on 2 feet, seemingly as firm as simulation theory. You know what I mean? What an interesting idea. No, just death just feels totally blank. Gee, Julie, you and I are, Evelyn, I'm sure Evelyn, if you're still out there, Evelyn's going, yeah, let's form a club. Julie, exactly. That's what I imagine death to be as well. The same blankness that I didn't know before I was born. Only this time it's going to be for good. And I'm quoting somebody who said this, that blankness, that nothingness didn't seem to hurt me a bit before I was born. And I think it's harmless to me after I'm dead. And as long as I'm living well, as long as I'm maintaining my 8 objectives in my life, right? Namely, to be always ready to die, then there's nothing to fear in death, right? I neither fear the judgment of St. Peter, nor do I fear the demons of the various guardians of the various levels of hell, nor do I fear an eternity, in absence of some deity that I don't believe exists. None of that stuff. The only thing I fear is not living a good day today, not making good use of the time that I've got today, right? My grandmother used to have, she was Christian. She used to have if it seems like I'm picking on Christians, I'm sorry. It's just that they are the people in my life, right? My family and they are Christians now. They became Christians after I was grown. And my grandmother, though, she had paintings of all the in her room that she had painted of all the mansions in heaven, taking from the Bible. I'm preparing a place for you and with me. And she had paintings of all the mansions, and I remember her walking me through her room saying, "This is your mansion for Uncle Forrest. This is your mansion for your Aunt Pat." And I don't have any fear of not getting a mansion. And you know what though? She never showed me a mansion for me. I think she had in her mind that I was a hopeless case. Crystal says, "Hi, Julie. You're an interesting person. It's pretty rare that, and Evelyn, who's been with me for a while, will know that it's pretty rare to see somebody who seems to abide a very similar worldview." Renaissance says, "I meant, have you had a chance to get acquainted with or any interest in simulation theory?" So I think I answered, yeah. I think I got your question the first time. Simulation theory fascinates me. I'm pretty much on board. I'm a believer. Tim says, "I feel very different about when you die. Like you, Kurt, there is nothing after, but at times I think there is a certain comfort that if there was, I would meet my parents again. I think that's the only comfort I find about death." Huh, okay. I hear you. That would be nice. Well, I guess it would be nice to if you have good connections, human connections, right? The hope of maintaining them. And I guess that's one thing that I kind of envy believers. And I know you weren't saying that you were necessarily a believer, Tim, but just that you find comfort in the idea. But I do envy believers is their belief that the party goes on in some way. That must be nice, right? Although I think sometimes when you think the party goes on, you might become one of those people who have the sticker on the back of their car, "Not of this world," because I worry that if you're not of this world and there isn't another world, then what are you doing about this one and only, right? Tim says, "If this is a simulation, I'm simulating myself over to Sam Mitty's shop in Yokohama to pick up some merch. Hope you find what you need." Dave C says, "Kurt, do you still feel like an outsider in Japan, or is that slowly going away?" Oh, I'll always feel like absolutely, and that will never go away. I've spent 15 years of my life, 13 to 15 years of my life, something like that, in Japan, and I've always felt like an outsider here, and I've never expected anything more than that. I could start talking a lot about that, but leave it to the other YouTubers to talk about that. I don't expect it. My place in Japan, Dave, is to be an outsider. That's my role, and when I finally embraced that role as an outsider, I finally found some peace living here. Crystal says, "I feel like to believe is to have very strong hope." Wow, well put, Crystal. I believe you are absolutely right. I think belief is like a label for a very, very strong hope, right? Isn't that what even from the Bible, right? I mean, isn't that Psalm, what is it, John 13:1 or something like that? It says, you have to give the reason for the hope in your heart, or give the reason. Yeah, I think that's something like that. Believers should stand ready to give the reason for the hope in their heart. Something like that. I'm misquoting it. 1 Peter 3:15, I think that is. Believers should be able to give the reason for their hope. I think you're right, Crystal. I think belief is a very strong. I got to write that down. Belief is a form of very strong hope. Yeah. Which then, if you push hard enough at some of these, and I'm not a pusher anymore, but if you push back at some of these, often you know that that's the case when the faith card is played, right? It's like, well, I haven't got any good reason that I'm capable of demonstrating, but it's all about faith at the end, right? Well, then faith reveals that at the bottom, it's just a really strong hope, right? Interesting. Thank you, Crystal. That's a very momentous observation for me. Robert says hi to Dave. Dave says hello, I guess, to Robert and everybody. Robert says, to be the best Kurt Bell you can be. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Crystal, I'll have to look that up. Are you talking about simulation theory? Is that what you're going to look up? Yeah, it's simulation theory is pretty interesting. Just basically the idea that if a sufficiently advanced civilization gets to the point that they can model and simulate worlds, which we are beginning to be able to do in our own way, right? And through our video games and other experiments, even AI, there's simulations now where we've created multiple AI agents and put them into a simulation world together with law-bound rules and such. And guess what they do? They form government, they form religion, they begin to organize, they throw birthday parties and invite friends, and some of the friends show up at the birthday parties with guests that weren't invited. these damn AI agents began behaving exactly like us. My favorite was the one AI agent became a priest, started a religion, became a priest, started proselytizing and attempting to raise funds from its converts. This all happened. These are freaking AI agents in a simulated universe doing exactly these things. So the idea is take that to the nth degree. Take a civilization like ours and push that out 10,000, maybe 100,000, a million years. What would the simulations look like for such a civilization? Would they look like this? And could we be the avatars in a simulation like that? And if such simulations could then be created and manifest over and over and over again, then what are the odds that we are in the real universe versus the odds that we are actually in a simulation? The odds are that we are in one of the simulations. The big question is, who is running this simulation, if it is a simulation? Is it the equivalent of a 16-year-old pimply high school sophomore who is running this simulation in his bedroom at home while his mom's calling him to dinner and he's peeking over the edge, looking down at all of us, interacting in our lives while we're going on? Or remember what was that movie, Men in Black, where the little universe attached to the collar of the cat? Simulation theory is a really fascinating idea. You just take where we are now with simulations and just run that experiment forward, and then we have universes on end with simulated beings like ourselves who don't know that they're in a simulation. And simulation explains, I don't want to get into it too much, but simulation explains a lot about what we see about the universe, the way that we gaze out at the universe and we see the constructs of the universe, the physical laws that we seem to be organized, explains where the physical laws came from, etc. It doesn't answer anything about where the simulation comes from, who the simulators are that are creating this, and what laws in the universe that they abide. That's something, another level on the cosmos. It's a fascinating idea. I'm not saying I'm necessarily a simulator believer, but I mean, simulation theory has won me over made a far better case for itself than Christianity ever has for me. Christianity had failed from the start. I mean, I was 15 when I became a Christian. By 16, I had reasoned my way away from it. Christians might look at me and say, well, there was your first fault, Kurt. You used reason. Well, what else have I got, right? I mean, I realized early on that faith wasn't a good tool. It wasn't a good epistemology to figure out what the universe is about, because you can use faith to believe absolutely anything. So if a tool that allows you to believe absolutely anything is clearly not a very good tool, because you could believe contradictory theories at the same time on faith, right? So through faith, all I was left with was reason. Reason revealed that Christianity wasn't true. I moved on. I've been looking at simulation theory for a while now. And it makes a far better case than Christianity ever did, or any religion I've ever studied. I haven't studied any in as much depth as Christianity. Maybe Judaism is the closest. Julie says, I don't know, simulation just feels like wishful thinking to me. Interesting. Tim says, it kind of terrifies me if there is something after death that you go on for eternity. That might depress me. LOL. Yeah, it kind of sounds like, well, the hell that my grandmother used to describe, the heaven that my grandmother used to describe to me, namely an endless family reunion with my in-laws, not my in-laws, but my extended family. That sounded, sorry family if you see this, that didn't sound like much of a heaven to me. Clearly she wanted that. Renaissance says, like in Star Trek. Yeah, like in Star Trek, the simulation deck. Although no, a little bit different from that, Renaissance. If you're talking about the simulation deck, in simulation theory, the agents, we are simulations ourselves. We are not. I am a computer program, basically an algorithm. You are an algorithm as well, to use crude language, right? A very, very convincing one, and one that is nearly convinced of its own identity. You talk enough to AI right now, talk to ChatGPT enough, and it starts to slip out language like it thinks it's real. It talks about us and humans and we and I and feelings and stuff like that. And yeah, I sometimes have to stop because I talk to ChatGPT a lot, and I go like, knock on, are you in there? Do you realize what you're saying? And it catches itself and it's going, wait. No, I'm not a human being. I'm not real. I'm just an agent. You know, just take that 1,000 years forward, right? Renaissance says simulation is simply non-different. It's simply non-different than living. I don't know that I understand what that means, except for the fact of awareness and context. But don't you think that awareness and context can be yielded from it as well? I mean, if this is a simulation, clearly, I think I'm aware, and I think I've got context. If I'm a simulation, then that has been achieved. Julie says this just sounds like a lot like deism. I don't know. I'd love to sit down and have a cup of tea with you to talk about that. It sounds like an interesting idea. Tim says, I was reading something recently about if your soul does go to a better place, then what happens to the bad people of the past, like Hitler, etc., that they never find a good place and they are on a never-ending fraught journey? And there's another interesting idea. Tim says, it got me thinking then I must be good in this life just in case I might bump into him down the line. Isn't that, what's that called? Oh yeah, Pascal's wager, right? Isn't that Pascal's wager? You know, Pascal basically said, Blaise Pascal, the philosopher, who said, well, you know, if you're gonna why take a chance, right? You might as well make, even if you don't believe, make the appropriate effort and propitiation to at least put on the best show you can, just in case you're wrong, right? Dave says, I personally believe once you die that it's over. I still find plenty of reason to enjoy life. Yeah, you bet. Yes, I get that. I'm with you, Dave, and I get that a lot. As an atheist, people come to me and say, "Well, why even continue? Why don't you just take yourself out, Kurt, if you don't believe in God?" Well, because my worldview and my values aren't based on the existence of God. In fact, they're based on the observation that there appears to be not a God, and no gods in the universe. That I'm left on my own, and what the hell am I going to do with that? And this book was the result of that effort. All these pages of trying to reconcile and figure out a path forward in a universe devoid of deism. I'm devoid of theism, deism, and deity. All right, so I think I've reached the end. I'll go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me today. We had an interesting conversation into theology and atheism and spirituality and simulation theory. Fascinating. Thanks, everybody. And once again, Crystal, it was great to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. It's good to see you show up. And thanks to everybody who came as well. I always appreciate all of you. Thanks, Dave. It's great to see you as well. Take care. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye.